Hello and good afternoon. My name is Mark. I stream art content. Today I want to walk you guys through a painting, start to finish. I'll try my best to get it all done today. In the top left-hand corner there's a reference image, which is basically just a picture from outside my house, which is some nice, beautiful fall foliage beginning to show through. I'm going to be painting this using an medley of brushes and crayon, as well as a color palette that I've made myself. It's very similar to the colors that Bob Ross would use when he would make oil paintings. I'm going to try to give this more expressionist feel than what Bob would, but let's dive in. Step one will be to create our sky. Now, the image, and in the image itself, the sky is very washed out and very oversaturated. So I'm going to start in this corner of the image here, roughly right about there, and begin to put in some vibrant colors so we can really see the sunset. And I'm going to work from very red in this corner to very blue in this corner. My goal is to create very large paint blobs, and then to use those to, even bigger than that, much bigger than that, and really to use those to blend out the rest. So I'm going to start roughly right about here with red, and I'm going to try to follow Roy G. Biv. So we have red as our as the longest wavelength. I'm going to put that right in there, and notice how it immediately looks more pink because of the orange background. I'm then going to take yellow, and I'm going to shape this right through here, like so. And then I'm going to take my blue and begin to do the same again. I'm leaving gaps all along here because I'm going to be blending this. Blue is probably the one area where it's okay for me to go a little bit ham because it is going to take up most of the sky. I'm also okay for there to be gaps in the blue area because those will basically be represented by clouds later on. And I'll probably add on a second layer here in a couple minutes to go through that part. Now, I want the left-hand corner to be darker than the right-hand corner. But I'm not going to go all the way over to a dark shade. I'm only going to go one step up as I put a darker blue in this top corner here. And once I have these spaced out, all I'm going to do is begin to hide all that on the wrong brush. Well, so we're going to delete that. Add a new layer. I'm just going to call it the layer sky this time since I actually am paying attention to what I'm doing. And I'm going to pick an impasto brush instead. The Memory Lane Impasto brushes are amazing because they will have texture versus the flatter brushes that come with default Krita. And again, all I'm going to do is work my way back and forth here a little bit to create where I want the color to start. Ignore the fact that these lines are here for now. That'll be faded out as we kind of go through. And I'm just going to, again, pick where I want this to be. So I want this part of the sky to be very bright. And I'm leaving a little bit of a gap so I can blend the orange in, because it is red, orange, yellow, and then blue will be here. So I'm going to blend the yellow into the blue. I'm probably going to pull the red downward as well, and the yellow upward. And the yellow downward and the blue downward from there. And again, painting in the blue. I'm going to go with smaller brush size just to make my PC more happy. As you can see, these do take up quite a lot of bandwidth. I'm just going to try to really speed paint these in very rapidly and very quickly as I try to add depth here. I'm going to go back to the yellow a little bit and do the same. This will also give it more texture. And another way to add value to a painting is through texture, and by having not that very basic flat technique, and again just kind of painting a little longer than that. There we go, that'll be a good balance. I want to go as fast as possible. within this, I am just going to let my computer catch up a bit here. And all I'm doing right now is block in general shape of the sky. Later on, I'll block in the other shapes that'll basically be on top of this. I'm also going to be blocking in some basic clouds that'll have a more active feel to them, again with a focus on creating depth and value through the different hues, which you kind of can barely see on the right hand side here. And I'm really going to almost try to fill the canvas with this. In all reality, in this reference image, the horizon is below the image. So I can fill this entire thing with the sky and really let it create a lot of depth of field to it. There's not going to be a lot of very far away background here, because we are in a very wooded area. So we were really only seeing the tops of the trees versus some far off distant mountains, or the grand vista that was in my last stream on YouTube, if you guys got a chance to watch that. If you are joining in late, there is also going to be a recording of this stream on YouTube as well, which you can check out at your leisure. So one thing to note here is that this 75% or so of the painting is very cool, and this area here is very warm, meaning that these colors will contrast and complement these blue colors, whereas these two blues are more analogous to each other, so they're going to blend more naturally together. And what I'm probably going to do is start here and blend my way down to the warmer area, to the warmer zone. I think that's fairly good. Now, I'm going to take my blender brush from Memaleo. Brush has about 300 sounds good, and I'm just going to begin to take in circular motions. Just going to work this through quite a lot and really blend the colors together to create the effects that I'm looking for. And again, as of right now, I don't care about really much of anything in the painting. I just want to have a nice appearance of overall shape. Not really shape, but I'm just really focused on color. Just color. Not caring about the actual brush strokes themselves, and just trying to create this overall active sky that we don't have in the reference image. When working with photograph, it is very challenging to avoid the temptation to try to create the one-to-one image. I can't hammer home enough that you don't really need to do that. You can simply have a nice, easy, time, and much easier time if you kind of almost forget that the reference image is there, and use it for what it's meant to be, which is purely inspirational. And by taking that approach, you can take a painting or a picture that is lacking in drama or lacking in visual interest and use your painting skills to boost that visual interest. I'm trying to maintain some of this orange color here. I'm trying to mix that in a little bit, because that'll give us the appearance of clouds that are off in the distance a little bit as well. Within the painting now, you can probably begin to see what I mean about texture as well. Because by now, each time I make a stroke, I'm getting the painting getting a little bit smoother, and some of the rougher areas are being taken out. So you can't see quite every single brush stroke, but there is still texture there, which is adding to the visual complexity of the work and of the sky that we are slowly creating together. Again, trying to maintain some of this orange area. because the orange will, again, complement the blue and add additional visual interest to the painting itself. And as I blend, if I move from the orange area to the blue area, it will naturally act to remove the paint. In fact, I may have put too much paint on the canvas, but that's okay. And all we have to do to fix that is to paint from areas where the paint is lacking and move that onto areas where paint is excessive. And as we go through, we're just going to very neatly blend this until we have something that's a little more homogeneous and a little more active and dynamic and dramatic. Because in the end, what we're trying to do is create visual interest that will capture the eye. The eye itself is easy to fool and easy to trick. We have great eyesight, but we also have very, especially at a distance, our eyesight that can't necessarily make out, is not very good at distinguishing different shades or values of color. So as things get further away, the color gets less and less vibrant and gets more and more blended together. So by doing this active blending, one thing I am doing is creating that illusion that your eye would automatically have. And as I'm going through here, all I'm really doing is, again, blending, trying to be a little bit focused on the color itself, not necessarily worried about individual brush strokes or the shapes I'm creating. And I'm just trying to fill the canvas with an active and dynamic background that'll be a compelling backdrop for those little gaps between the trees. And it'll create something that is very compelling in the background. What I don't want is the kind of very bright and flat background that I feel is distracting from the overall work of the trees as a whole. And again, I'm just trying to go through and lighten this up and redeem some of that orange color that we've had and let that background canvas shine through some more. And just come through like so. Just nice and slow, nice and easy. And really work my way through and really just blend away. Again, I'm not really focused on shape or hue. I'm really purely focused on color right now. And I'm purely focused on making this image as compelling as I can. I don't want the color choices that I make to distract from the rest of the image. And if there is too much texture in a given area, I don't want that texture to distract from the overall image as well. One of the main differences between digital painting and physical painting is pigments. When you're making a real painting, you are limited by the pigments that you have in front of you. So you have a jar or a tube of paint, and that paint then has to get mixed with others to achieve different colors or hues, either on the canvas or on a palette. Digital painting is different. In a digital painting, you have this color wheel. with the color wheel, you can pick and choose any color you want. But I can see 16 million variations in color. Each primary color themselves has about 2.6 million variations within that. So the challenge for a traditional painter is to use their limited paint colors, so about maybe 16 or so, and then translate that into as many of those, and to create as much color variation as possible using that limited set. In digital art, it is often very easy to just start swinging around the color wheel and using that color wheel to pick whatever color you want for whatever suits you. I find that to be very different and very jarring when you compare it to traditional artwork, almost making it look cartoony. And by using a textured brush and by using a defined palette, I am trying to recapture traditional artwork and the look and feel of more traditional canvas or more traditional work. I almost don't want it to be digital. I want to be able to have this on a canvas print and not have to be able to tell that I didn't paint it on the canvas itself. Obviously there'll be giveaways, but I want to do as much as I possibly can to make sure that I am giving and allowing for a high degree of contrast. And notice how already this part of the sky has been a lot more active. It's having a lot more visual interest in it. This is only our base layer. Now the pressure that I use with the stylus or pen will determine how much or how heavy the texture is. So by varying the pressure that I'm using, I'm also able to kind of create. So if I put a lot of pressure, you can really see that it kind of gashes the canvas almost. And then as I lightly go over it, it smooths it out. It smooths it out for me. As we get into more of the foreground, I will vary that pressure more frequently to create that. Sometimes I get tired as well. I start smashing the canvas, so that is another factor. But in general, in these background areas, I'm trying to go very light and very smooth, and then blending to take away these obvious strokes and striations. So see the difference already between just this area and this as I'm blending through, and you can really begin to let it take hold as to what the blending technique overall does. And I'm also leaving areas of blue. So again, I don't want the eye to be able to see. I want the eye to be able to fill in the gaps. I don't want to have specific details. I want it to imagine. I want you as the viewer or the person who's perceiving the work of art to really have the complex and the job of discerning what the image is, because as the artist, it's really almost my job to fool you and to captivate you and to keep you interested in it. If you look at a painting for a couple seconds, cool. But if what I really want is for you to take that in over time. Maybe the first time you look at it is for a minute or two. You hang a print on your wall and you're seeing it every day. And as you take it in, you might find different little visual complexities that you can see before. That's also one of the wonders of digital art, because it really opens up art to the masses, to where you don't have to spend $10,000 for an original landscape painting. You can just take a print off Etsy, hang it on your wall, and when you wake up in the morning, you're looking at a painting. And as you're looking at it, as the light in your room changes, as you change, your perception of that work will change too. Digital art is something that also allows you to have things that are easily replicatable. So it's easier to share the art with more people, simply because of the fact that it's more readily available and reproducible versus traditional media. And again, it really is a very powerful thing, And I really, especially when you look at things like Krita, where the overall goal of the platform is to enable art via something that's free. So anyone can step up here. Anyone can be an artist. All it takes is a tablet. The one I'm using right now is from Wacom. It was a refurbished tablet, so it cost me under $200. And from here, all I'm doing is just using free software and free broadcast software to share the work that I'm creating. And it really is a lovely experience to be able to share my work with others and allow them to see the work and image being created. I'm going to take a break really quick just to make sure that I'm live on YouTube as well as Twitch. And I appear to be sweet. And really, I'm just going to. My goal in all of this is to share my work and to share the work that I've created. My grandmother was a very prolific artist. She made a ton of paintings. Whenever I went to her house as a kid, those paintings filled every wall. As an adult, I don't have any of her works, and that kind of made me sad to think about, because that's something that is very easy to throw away as a young adult, as a 20-year-old, but something that is sad to think about as I've aged into my 40s, and now as I get back into artwork, I really also want to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen to my work. I want to make sure that I share this with as many people as possible in as permanent a way as possible, so that my art will be available. I have my paintings hanging on my walls right now. I'm slowly filling them up, and it's my hope that others will do the same, either with their own art or with mine. But if I can either make a painting that brings you joy, or if I can show you how to make your own painting that brings you joy, to me those are both very valid and very admirable goals. What I'm doing the painting now is working in more of the orange from the bottom and beginning to blend in and fill the canvas. And again, I'm trying to work from left to right. I paused there because I didn't know my left and right from anything. And we're eventually going to get into this other area here where we use other colors and begin to capture that sunset. So I'm going to probably try to fill into this corner here and then begin to leave again. Because I'm going to work this pink downward and into this area here, this corner, with this yellow filling the middle area. So this yellow may begin to overwork a lot of the red that we're seeing here. Before I do that, let me kind of keep going through and blending this area here. In fact, I'm actually going to be mixing in the yellow. I'm going to pull the yellow upward and mix it with the blue and begin to combine these and see what happens. You'll notice how your eyes is already being tricked. Watch as I blend how much darker the blue begins to appear as I mix it with the yellow. It's the same shade, it's just getting a darker appearance because the yellow is a much brighter color, pigment-wise. Again, we're just going to blend first the yellow to the orange, and then the yellow to the blue. And then for the red. One of the other beautiful things about digital painting is I don't have to wash my brush at all. If I did this in real life, I just went from here to here, well, that would cause a mess of different paints getting in the wrong colors, getting in the wrong spot. That's the kind of thing that can be very hard to fix or repair in an actual painting scene because of the fact that it is something that is now mixed into the pigment, and it's very hard to get rid of that or fix that mistake. With digital painting, that mixing is much it's insane because I can come over here to the blue, and I'm now automatically spreading red into that. If I went from red to blue like that with real paint, it probably would have created a bit of an issue because now I have a color that's in the wrong part of the spectrum on the wrong part of the painting. And again, all I'm doing here is mixing our primary colors. As I mix our primary colors, it's going to create secondary colors. In this case, mostly orange and probably a little bit of green. As I mix them together, the fact that I have the orange base canvas is helping to encourage the development of orange secondary colors rather than green ones. Again, just trying to blend and make this active. The sky itself, for me, is usually one of the more longer things to create. And as I add depth and value on, it kind of guides, and the sky will basically guide the light and shadow for the rest of the painting. So as I do this, it will begin to kind of define the other decisions that I make. Again, just being very quick in my strokes here. I am not being mindful of shape or form or anything like that. I am just trying to create a dramatic and dynamic sky that includes all the colors that we have on the canvas so far, moving the spectrum from this right to left. And again, just going through and working this over and working this in a way that is blending it together. And really trying to let the color work and let the color inform your eye as to what's occurring. And notice how already, as we're mixing these blues and yellows and oranges together, how much more dynamic things are becoming. One downside of digital painting versus real painting is I don't have a palette to mix the colors on. So I can't create a lot of variation. Let's say I wanted to add more white to this. To do that, I'd have to add white to the actual image itself. And so what I'd have to do is actually blend on the canvas. And as I put in the cloud layer, you will see how that becomes pretty apparent. But again, I'm just trying to create something more expressionist, very dramatic, and really capturing the overall dramatic feel of a sunset sky, which is going to be backdropping our fall scene, our autumn scene with the trees you're seeing in the left-hand side. Right now you're probably sitting there thinking, this guy's crazy. That doesn't look anything like a reference image. Maybe you're right, it doesn't, but it will. my short-term goals for this painting are to both work in the top right corner and work in the top left corner. The corner that I'm going to finish last is the bottom right, because I want to make sure that the red of the sunset doesn't overpower everything else. So there you go. That's a good example of me pressing too hard, being too dramatic with my strokes, and having too much texture appear. Sometimes as I go quickly, it becomes natural to add pressure. It becomes harder to work in a way that is soft, especially as I'm trying to spread paint. But again, I'm okay with this filling the canvas. There's going to be a lot of paint placed on top of this, and I don't really want this bottom area to have too much detail, or I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to make sure that some color is popping through, so that areas where I do leave a gap, or a gap does naturally kind of occur, it becomes very, you're able to actually see the light shine through. And that's an effect that I absolutely want to have if I can achieve it. And what I'm doing right now is trying to set myself up for success. And the way to think about this is basically I am setting this guy in first. This is going to be one layer, and if this was a real painting, this would have to dry first. Or I'd have to paint on it when it's wet, to allow the other layers to blend to it. One of the beautiful things about digital painting is I can tell, I can turn on and off whether or not the paint below is wet. And that is a very unique thing that is not present in traditional painting. Right? You can't undry paint. Okay, what time we now is just mix. Mix and blend, and let color take shape. And notice how now, because we have this more yellow color mixed in, that the shades that we're creating here are slightly different than what we're seeing on the top part of the image. And again, my goal here is to achieve drama and complexity, not necessarily to achieve form. I want your eye to take the complexity that I've created and fill form in. And I'm going to do that by blending color as evenly as I can to make things as ambiguous as I can. And it's okay that hints of blue are still in this area that is much more defined by the yellow color. That's okay. And notice how when I change directions, the color that I'm spreading will change from blue to yellow. So if I go like in this direction, the yellow will get mixed in. If I go in this direction, the blue will get mixed in. And that is based on where I painted them and how it's moving. Again, I'm just trying to fill in these 2 corners. I'm trying to focus on the bottom walls right now. I'm going to stay in this area for a while, I think. I'm just going to allow this kind of dramatic effect to take hold and really allow these base colors to repeat. Again, I just want to make sure that I'm filling the entire canvas. And really spread this bright spot out as much as I can. And I want to capture that emotion of, driving into a sunset and, you all of a sudden from around a corner or crest a hill and all of a sudden you put your sunglasses on because it's so bright. That is the effect I'm looking for. I'm okay with this spot being very overpowering. That's what I want it to be. Increase my brush size slightly. I'm really just going to try to make this color that I'm creating in the middle here more prominent in the image. And I'm probably going to try to make this color fill up to that top corner. And again, the decisions that I make now, even though they're not really decisions, will inform the rest of the painting. And they will inform all the light and shadow that I put in the painting from here on out. One thing that I find very important as well, mindset-wise, is to make sure that I'm not being overly committed to any of the areas that I've already created. Like, I'm not worried about going back and mixing new paint into an area that I haven't gotten to in a while, because that can lead to kind of a tunnel vision effect of, one area becomes overly focused and not meshing with the rest of the work. So as I'm mixing more of this yellow in, it's going to be important for me to come back to this earlier area that I worked on to add some of that in there, at least hints of it, so that the painting has an overall cleaner appearance, so there's not jarring areas, or so it's not as jarring. But for now, I really want to focus on just getting the canvas full. And then from there, I will blend this even further. But I still even haven't really touched the red area yet. And as I blend, I'm probably going to work in the opposite direction, so I'll probably work from the right hand corner up into the other corner over here. As you can kind of see that, as I'm coming out of this corner, these are taking a much different shape. I think that this is much more similar to the effect that I'm looking for in the sky that I'm working in now. Because the blues are much lighter. And overall, the appearance of the sky is much brighter. It really is awesome watching the paint blend on canvas. For me, that is one of the coolest parts of painting. Just watching the colors take shape and taking something that started as 4 colors and making it as dynamic and dramatic as what you see here. And to really unlock as much of that visible coloring as I can. over here to the red area. I'm going to pull this down and mix this down as much as I can into the orange. And slowly begin to pull the yellow into it as well. And again, all I'm trying to do here is just spread this paint as much as possible over the canvas and really make sure that the bottom of the canvas has color on it. For the bottom here, I don't really care too much about it. My strokes are larger because I just want hints of it that can show through eventually. Because again, the horizon here is below the image, so the sky could potentially show through the entirety of the image. Again, just blending this together, and I will try to make this as neat as possible as I go through and as I continue to make this. continuing to go through and continuing to blend these colors out and continue to make sure the painting is coming along in the way that I want to. I really want the sky to be very, very active, so that when there are those little gaps in the trees, there is something special that's showing through. The colors that are here will likely get 99% covered up. That's fine. One other beauty about digital painting is I can actually, if I really like this sky, really like how dramatic and dynamic it is, I can simply turn off all the other layers and proceed with just this sky as a painting in itself. And I'm kind of liking how abstract this is. I'm calling it a sky, but in the end, you know, it can be what you interpret it to be. And I kind of like the visual interest that I've established so far. And I like how I'm really filling up the canvas with it. And I like how the canvas is kind of heavy in the middle there. Where that yellow is, it just kind of takes over the image. And it kind of fades in at the corners. Again, all I'm trying to do is just work through here and really make sure that I am continuing to fill the canvas, to continue to fill in each corner, so each corner is distinct and vibrant in its own way, with that clear color progression across the spectrum from the bottom right-hand corner to the top left-hand corner. And then I'm just going to start at this bottom corner and work my way through in the opposite direction. Focusing on making very soft strokes. Really focusing on blending in all the various different colors that we have on the canvas to make this much softer and the more I work a particular area, the softer it will be. The more I drive it through, the more I blend, the better it will look. And the more focused it will be. So This, like I was saying earlier, the sky is always the part for me that takes the longest, is always the hardest. But it is also the part that I enjoy the most. And all I'm doing here is going through and trying to soften things up and allow the bright yellow to form that boundary between the very warm red and the very cool blue. And notice how a lot of those earlier strokes that I had that were much more violent and much more cool and much faster are being blending out, and they're basically forming the paint that I'm spreading around them more evenly. And as I mix that dynamic range of color, things become much more violent. You get a much more mix that you're basically, and what I mean by that really is that your eye being to perceive more than just the original full colors. Right, your eye is now beginning to expand that visual range and expand that overall appearance, even though you and I both know that only 3 things will apply to the canvas. And just blending. Blending is really something that takes a ton of patience, and for me it's a critical part of the artwork, and it really is a critical part of creating something that's compelling, because as I blend on the canvas, things just get so much more dynamic and so much richer. I mean, really, if you look at this simple area here, look how much more compelling it is than it was even a few minutes ago. And this is the kind of thing that you can achieve when you don't focus on minimalism, and when you focus on letting yourself, on feeling free to express yourself. When I was originally conceptualizing this painting, I was thinking about, okay, well, let me just put on 30 very large and very broad strokes. Maybe make sure that I counted them per layer and really work through them. But as I've gone through this, and as I'm beginning to do this now, I'm recognizing that that is simply not my style, and I have to be able to blend like this. You've probably seen me already make thousands and thousands of strokes on this canvas. You just can't achieve this kind of dynamic range with such few strokes. I was planning on kind of cheating and just using those 30 things, putting them together to make the image that I wanted to make. But in reality, what I'm creating now I think is much more interesting and compelling, even though it's taking me way more. I'm going to go through, I'm going to start now. I think I like this side of the painting. I'm going to begin to work my way toward the other side a little more. And really begin to keep this grayer blue that I've created on this one. Which also I think is much closer to what we have in the original reference image on top. Really what I'm doing here is just dragging this color over more. And I'm almost overwriting the original paint that we have, and this actually is only, this probably is the last original paint on the canvas that I'm working through now. And as I'm pulling this through and over this original paint, it is mixing somewhat. And it is keeping some of that blue color, so I'm going to try to maintain that and spread it as much as I can as well. So again, the goal here is to add complexity. The goal here is to make sure that I am able to actually blend this through. And trying to be very light, trying to not have a lot of these more heavy striations that you're seeing, and really trying to let the blending occur in a very natural way, rather than a very heavy-handed way. Oh, that's a problem. I haven't saved this yet. Problem solved. Why is not clicking though? There we go. Always save your work, folks. And as I begin to make this a little bit more homogeneous, it's important to also make sure that I am not focusing on one area for too long, and I'm able to continue to think of the work as a whole. And right now what I'm trying to do is also focus on any areas that seem to have a lot of paint, or that are very heavy, because I want them to be very light. I really want to continue to pull this color across. What I'm probably going to do is just mix this in phases. Just start from the top and smooth it. Smoothing it, and really, again, like, I just want this to be as dynamic and dramatic as possible. And I think I'm getting the look and appearance that I really want. I'm really just trying to spread this across in a nice even way. By having these kind of angular motions here, it's not a bad thing. But it'll basically give the appearance of very different or very light clouds as well. So again, it's something I'm very okay with. The important thing that I want to make sure that I'm doing is removing any spots that where the paint appears to be heavy. By heavy, I mean texture. I'm kind of letting this darker blue introduce itself a little bit more into this yellow area. But really, again, add that dramatic effect to it. And really allow the bright spot of the yellow to stay there. And notice how much darker that looks than it does up here. All due to the proximity to the yellow. Again, just trying to spread this color out and remove and smooth out the overall work. And again, going to start here again and pull further out this time. Start here and just smooth it out. I'm trying to avoid the top corner there, so I do want that to remain very dark, at least in contrast. Again, I'm just going through and I am going to try to smooth this to the best of my ability. And I think our sky, our base layer is almost done. I think it's almost time to think about other elements that I might want in the sky. Do I want to have clouds here? I'm trying to think if I do. I think as it is, it's quite dynamic enough. And really what the reference image there is showing me is where the light and the shadow should be. That's all. I'm kind of adding that effect a little bit by making this more dramatic than it would have been otherwise. But the rules are still the same. Cool. Cool. Okay, so this is our base. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is add a layer here, and I'm going to call this layer the farthest trees away. And that's been represented by that fairly large tree in the distance there. I'm going to take Van Dyke Brown from the second row, and I'm just going to start making choices. I'm probably going to pick this brush here. I'm going to lock the sky layer. For some reason I'm not pretty. What did I do? Oh, not the brush tool. That makes sense. I probably smashed the hotkey at some point. So again, I want this brush, I want it to be very large, and we're going to begin fairly high in the image, and we're just going to begin to block in overall shapes. Again, I want there to be gaps here, and I want this to be fairly high in the image. And I'm going to let this just kind of drift off behind here. So now, again, I was very close there coming in hitting the undo button, and I decided not to, because we have only happy accidents here. And all I'm going to do with these trees, because they're so distant, is quickly brush them in and see how already we have the background of the sky impacted. This is very much what I wanted, and this is kind of already giving us the impression that there's something there, right? Because we're taking these shapes and forms that are much darker, but we're still allowing a lot of that brightness to shine through that we've established with our sky. And I'm trying to use and make sure that darker areas are staying to the right hand or left hand side of where the trees would be. And I'm trying to let the left hand side, the right hand, I really don't know how to work my left. The right hand side be brighter. I'm kind of mixing those two areas together. And I'm kind of trying to allow little bits of gaps to appear as well. And now as we kind of move into the left-hand side here, we'll see that these will naturally become darker. Basically what I'm doing here is establishing a base layer that I will then apply more color to in a very limited sense. I don't want this to be very heavy in color yet. This is still the farthest thing away. If you look at the reference image, it kind of is very monotone. It's kind of dark because well, I know why it's dark, but it is rather dark. So I'm allowing some of that bluer to mix in rather than the light colors on the other side here. And I'm just kind of letting it do its work. And I'm letting the colors blend. And as I put other colors on top of this, they will also have that kind of very similar shade to them. And I'm also going to let those shades be a little bit more transparent. I'm also being very careful that I'm not trying to draw trees. If I try to draw trees, they will they'll end up looking weird. Instead, what I want to do is just focus on areas that are shadow and areas that are light. If I do that, your eye will naturally perceive the objects that are there without much work from me as the artist. I don't want, overall, I really don't want there to be that very romantic or realistic style that you would see in, say, a Bob Ross painting or in the Hudson River School. I really want this to be very much driven dynamically by you as the viewer of the work. Again, just trying to take this color and spread it out in a way that is giving the impression of some distant trees, on top of which we're going to add some lovely fall colors in a little bit, focusing the colors on the areas that are light. And so there'll be some color on these, but they will be quite but what I'm trying to do here is try to make this be a little less flat. As of right now, it's kind of very, very sharp in that kind of direction. So I'm trying to try to smooth that out some, and make it look a little more dynamic. Again, I'm not trying to stay in one area for too long. I am trying to actively work on the painting as a whole, and I'm trying to create these, I'm trying to let your mind think that what we're looking at here is a series of trees. And I'm trying to let the colors that are beneath this layer that we're creating come through. I'm also still trying to spread this down for the entire canvas, but again, I'm not going to take a lot of time. As I get lower, I'll spend less and less time. It's going to get painted over. As we stack layers on the bottom part of the canvas, it will begin to become the heavier part, which is why I didn't want a lot of painting to begin with. It's going to have so much by the end. I'm trying to, even already, we can kind of begin to see some color for stealing from the layer below. Especially in like full very bright areas, it becomes very easy to share and let that product shine. It really does allow the image to become much brighter. And I'm not doing this but by mixing the colors. What I'm doing here is actually removing paint. Because I have the sky layer beneath us locked. And what I'm trying to do is really create a more dynamic shade of brown as I'm mixing through in the lighter areas, so that we have this much more dynamic feel. And this is creating automatically the appearance of shadows where shadows ought to be, and the appearance of bright spots where they ought to be. And as I choose which spots get blended and which spots I allow the brighter color to stand through, that's creating the dynamic feel of a thick forest where the light isn't always able to shine through. I kind of want to see how this appears with this redder undertone, because the brown is much, much closer to red. And again, as I'm painting this, I'm really trying to just focus on maintaining areas of light and of dark on the correct sides of the object in quotation marks. Trying to pay a little bit of attention to form here, but not a crazy amount. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm being consistent. If I'm not consistent, it'll break the illusion for your eye. And your eye will begin to question it more than I want it to. And like I don't really want your eye to kind of have to try to zoom in, try to figure out what things are. I want things to naturally appear as they are, and appear a certain way. If I spray the color downward, I'm also naturally having that kind of appearance. And I'm naturally putting these darker colors further into the painting. And I really want to make sure that, you know, as we're seeing this, it's light shining through. It's not necessarily the overt bright sky that we had in the previous layer. It's just that bright sky shining through so brightly through these trees. And notice how I've taken a very boring brown color and I've made it quite vibrant and quite rich in the color without having to actually apply any opacity or really do much at all, other than blending and removing paint and letting the other colors below come through occasionally. I may change the opacity on this, but I will likely do that to the layers that are above this instead, at least for the highlight layers that I'll put above this, so that they are able to shine through a little more and have a little more detail, especially on this center tree here. And I may limit the detail that we add to that center tree. And here, I'm going to try to create the appearance that these trees are a little bit even more distant than the one that we're looking at now. And I'm going to do that by having this cut across through like this and allow more of that blue shade to come through from the sky. And that'll further push these back. And again, one of my goals with this layer is to establish depth. It's very important that I allow the correct parts of the image here to have the correct amount of detail or pop, and I'm making sure that I'm allowing these little areas like this to appear. It's very important I not overwork these areas so that they can stay much more ambiguous in terms of where they're defined. Like, I don't want things that are sharp, I want things that are very blended out and vivid. And I want things that are really very like little area, like little eye traps where I get caught in. And I really also do just want to take my time with it. And I want to make sure that I'm allowing the color to get darker as I approach lower into the painting. The forest will be thicker near the lower areas, so I want to make sure I'm capturing that. And I want to make sure that I am having less stuff shine through the lower I go. This will be aided later on as I put more layers on top of this, but again, I want to make sure that that is something that I'm controlling earlier on. And something that I'm being mindful of earlier on. Especially on this more left-hand side of the image. On the left-hand side of the image is the opposite side of where the sun is setting. So we are looking to the south, or roughly south. So I do want to make sure that we are maintaining the left-hand side as the darker side of the image and allowing more light to shine through on the right-hand side of the image. As we cross this boundary that we're crossing now, the image will get much, much brighter because that underlying paint is much, much brighter. And and again, this really only started with a very small amount of paint. And so I'm really just kind of spreading it around and letting it kind of be mixed and diluted as it needs to be. As I get lower too, I'm trying to alter and change the direction of my strokes a bit so they are a bit more horizontal, because I feel like as you get closer to the ground, those branches are going to be more horizontal, so I'm okay with that. What I just want to avoid is that it looks more like contours than I don't want to give the appearance of making a hillside, basically. I might. Looking at this, I might have this area here be some sort of pasture or something. But I want to put that big tree in there instead. And as I'm going through, I'm just smoothing and blending in, and I'm letting just the color spread out. Again, this is going to get painted over, so it's fine. Just want to make sure that it's smooth and that we're not being heavy. I also want to make sure that my brush strokes aren't obvious. Okay, now I'm going to add another layer on top of this. And I'm going to take some red, and I'm going to take a brush size, and this is much smaller, and I'm just going to add some red. On the sunward side of these trees. This one. We'll do the same. Adding in some orange. I'll probably need to heavily blend that area, so that was a mistake. We will see how that looks. And again, happy accidents. We will blend out mistakes rather than trying to alter them now. I'm going to blend this first and see how it looks. Reducing my brush size a little bit. Remember to remove paint, we paint from where the paint isn't, or blend from where the paint isn't, where the paint is, and that will remove or dull out that mistake that I made earlier. And you'll notice how much more vibrant this is. Much more colorful this is. How really is this scene? How much brighter some of these spots are than others. Now it's naturally following the colors that are below. Adding some green to our paint in the darker areas. Trying to let the center tree have a lot more oomph color. Darker shades, but it is quite prominent. And for these, I'm going to try, what this one I'm trying to do here is use this green color as my boundary so that it sets both the colors apart, and basically that's depth. So basically we're creating a line where half the tree has shade and half doesn't. And then the other half, and then it's breaking up and creating the illusion of there being multiple different trees. Adding a little more depth. And I'm going to soften those lines a bit so they're not quite as obvious. And I want you, as the viewer, to make that interpretation. For this, I am not going to try to fill the canvas. I'm just going to try to fill in the tops of where this needs to be. And then I'm going to allow where I stop to define where the next layer will be. In fact, in a minute, I'm actually going to merge these two layers together. To create that one farthest tree layer. Just taking my time with it and really working this in a way that is smoothly blending the colors together in a much more impressionist style, and I'm letting the colors interact. So green is a cool color, and I'm using cool colors to be my proxy for shadow, and I'm allowing my warm colors to be my proxies for bright areas that are receiving more light in the evening. I'm just letting the proximity of those colors define the overall shape, but as I mix them in, the line between the two gets blurred. And that is really the feel that I want. I want you to be able to kind of judge this and see what it is, or have your eye at least think it sees what it is, without having to really worry too much about what it's thinking about or what it's seeing. Okay, I'm just trying to blend out those strokes and let the color come through without it being too overt. I'm also not trying to fill in the image, I'm trying to leave gaps. By leaving gaps, I'm allowing the actual, the kind of appearance that it's not one solid thing as well, which is another thing that I think is really important in this painting as well. Cool, so as I move from the left to the right, I'm going to spend a little more time on this tree. I feel like it is a very central part of the image. It's not quite going to be the hero of the image, but it's close. And it's definitely going to have a lot of visual interest to it. And as I move on to this side, I do want this to be much brighter, much more dynamic in terms of these fall colors coming through. And still being mindful of the boundaries that we've set on the previous layer. So I'll probably go through and add in some green. But here I'm kind of doing it in different areas. And notice how this is the exact same color as this. But notice how much brighter it is, because it's next to and being blended with the brighter yellow color. It has that brighter yellow underneath it. And then try to spread this green, this brighter part of the image that we have. Cool, yeah. Back to green, back to this brush, and we again as I do this, I'm kind of also learning more about the painting itself, and I'm letting the painting define itself, versus me trying to be more forceful about it or visually appeal to it. really just trying to, just let these colors play. Let the colors play. Let the colors define what they're looking at. For this particular tree, I'm not even really wanting it to be that colorful. I kind of want it to be set in the background a bit, so I'm okay with taking an approach that kind of removes a lot of this pigment, but I want to have some. I have a feeling our big guy in the front is going to be pushing right on top of this thing, so I kind of just want the colors there to shine through if they need to, but I'm not overly concerned with this one. I'm more or less looking for that hint of color rather than for an in-your-face color. Again, very similar this time. Try to be a little bit less this with the paint and let it try to. Again, trying to let these be a little more set back. Just kind of overall, very quickly mix this stuff in, but I feel like this is a very much more distant part of the painting. I'm really just trying to blend this across. Cool. Again, I'm going to apply the magical save button. I'm going to unlock this layer. Before I do that, I'm going to play with this a bit. I'm going to see how much opacity I want this to have. And I think something like that, 70% or so is good. Again, that's going to let more of the underneath layer shine through. Now that I've done that, I am going to merge it with the layer below. So I'm going to add a second layer in, and I'm going to name this one Medium Trees 1. There will likely be 2 of these, so that I feel like there are 2 layers. So we have this layer here, which we're going to cut across behind, and we have this one here, which will also be behind. So starting there, again, I'm going to take a slightly different color here, and I'm going to pick, I think, something that's more green here, so I'm going to pick this. Again, each layer I go, I'm trying to move one column over, even though you can't see it, one column over onto my color palette. I have my color palette arranged from light to dark as I go from left to right. Again, same thing, brush size a little larger here, and I'm going to try to follow along here somehow. So I want this to be right here, I think. And for this one, I don't think I want it to be continuous. I'm going to have it cut down like this. And on this side, it's going to cut across like this. Something like that. And I'm going to also go like this so that it is clear that there are multiple different specimens here or objects here. And now I'm going to take my blender brush, a little larger, and very similar, just begin to blend this down. These I'm thinking they are more green because they're obviously shorter than the other trees, and that would make them a little bit younger perhaps. The trees off behind it could also be a little bit higher of an elevation, but I'll leave that up to you as the viewer to interpret. And what I'm just going to begin doing here is paint this in as quickly and neatly as possible. Again, without any real focus on detail, I'm just trying to be mindful of where I have to maintain light areas versus dark areas. So my darker areas shine through so that we can kind of see that boundary emerge between different trees. I'm also going to make sure I'm going through and smoothing out a lot of these heavier strokes. Indeed, I also do want to make sure that I'm pulling further down while I'm painting for this layer. And again, this is going to add that sense of thickness to the forest, that sense of this is something that is alive. Let me try to cut that out a little bit. This is also likely the first layer while I have branches in, or at least a hint of branches, where they are appropriate. And then I will apply our highlights or the colored leaves on top of that. We're also over 2 hours now, so I may call a break here and pick this up tomorrow. Well, I'm trying to get this layer at least penciled in first. Hopefully tomorrow I can actually have Twitch working this time. What I'm doing now is trying to make this boundary less clean. Because again, I don't want you to think that the trees just suddenly stop. And I want there to be the image of, or thought of, individual little leaves and branches and stuff poking through. I'll probably also be adding much more shadow onto this layer tomorrow, because it is quite vibrant, it is quite bright, and it is overpowering the areas behind it. But that's okay. Again, there are no mistakes. It's also very important while painting to not judge yourself for things that are in progress, because this is obviously not a finished product, so it's not really fair for me to be even judging myself at all on it, because I know that I have probably about another 2 to 4 hours of work on this painting before it's going to be finished. So why would I expect things to be perfect when I'm only a third of the way in? By pulling up here, I'm also trying to give the appearance that there are smaller trees on this layer. I really want this to have a lot of dynamic, a very dynamic. And I'm really just trying to be mindful of areas of light and dark. I'm actually kind of liking this side of the image better. Mostly because it has that undertone of like orange and yellow. So I'll probably have to add on more shadow and color to the other side tomorrow. But it's going to work on this painting. But it's coming along in a way that I like. overall. And I'm just gonna finish filling this in, and then I'm going to take a break and maybe be back later today or tomorrow to work on this some more. I'm okay with increasing the brush size. I like it lower. The details will be less important. These are areas that are going to be likely to get painted over. So I'm okay with more rapidly spread paint out. I'm also okay with it over here because I know that I'm going to work on this more tomorrow. So it's okay if it's not perfect. Again, as I said, I'll probably have another 2 to 4 hours of work on this painting before I think it's finished. This is very much a to be continued for you guys to look at some more tomorrow, or whenever I'm the next version of this. Yeah, kind of liking that contrast and the same time with oops. So then again, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to paint this, continue to work on this, blindfold in, letting the painting define itself. As of right now, a lot of times I'm seeing if I do this kind of green color, it's really contrasting very highly with our previous layer. So I'm going to need to figure out a way to dull it out some so it blends in so it's sticking out a bit too much, one thing. It's sticking out a bit too much, and I think that it's a bit too high a contrast, and I may have chosen the wrong color. And I may make a different choice later on. I'll think about ways that I can potentially have that be more harmonious to the rest of the image. It might mean going back to the drawing board and make a different shade of red or brown. I think the green is a bit too cool, which is why it's standing out so much. But again, the undertones of this painting are quite warm for the majority of it, except for that blue sky. And I think that blue sky is really capturing the crisp autumn air. Whereas this layer here that I'm working on now is much more something that I would equate more to spring and fall. Okay, I'm going to save this here and end the stream here. Thank you for everyone that watched, and thank you if you enjoyed.